everybody, it's Dave from Wing Chun Mind Force. Glad to see you again. This is part 2 of my How to Fight in Wing Chun videos. And I want to start off with some basic stuff, what we call the setup in fighting. Anybody who's a fighter or been in the ring or trained in any style knows there's a certain way to set up. So in boxing, generally the setup is one foot behind the other, relaxed, legs springy, fists about here, chin down, chest slightly hollowed in, and we're ready to go. And you're protecting your chin, which in boxing is considered, a danger point. You can get knocked out pretty easy by a bit hitting the chin. So the chin's down, it's sort of near the chest. You're looking at your opponent, you're ready to go, and the fists are here. Now, in a lot of these unfortunate videos on the net about Wing Chun masters being beaten up by good fighters, good MMA boxer types, these guys unfortunately have learnt their Wing Chun somehow, I suspect, from watching videos. I'm not sure, but most of them look like they've never been in an actual fight in their life. And they generally set up like this. And they sort of do a bit of a chum cue type step. And they have their hands out like this. And when I first started Wing Chun, we were taught to sort of stand in a stance and have your arms like this. And I assumed that there was a point to that sort of, but it was just a beginner thing. And as often happens with martial arts, people tend to last a couple of weeks, a couple of months, a year, and then they go back into the world and they proclaim that they know Wing Chun. And some of these people go on to cobble together a few other things, and they'll say, oh yeah, come to my school, we teach Wing Chun, we teach Goju Ryu, we teach ninja arts, we teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, basically a smattering of things picked up from books or a couple of lessons. That's enough to say, oh yeah, we'll teach you this and that and the other. I'm not a fan of that concept. I'm with Bruce Lee in that I think you should learn, if you want to mix your martial arts, you should at least learn a base art really well. And Wing Chun's never really disappointed me. I don't feel a big urge to learn other things. I'm very open. I do like Jiu-Jitsu. And I like the Japanese sword arts, and I sort of just watch what everyone's doing. Like you guys would do, I pick apart fight scenes in movies. My favourite thing that boils my blood is, here it comes, watch out, here it comes, or the old John Wayne haymakers, they're still out there. And these super fighters in spy movies and science fiction movies, they're just tragically bad fighters. They're very handsome, good looking, well built. It's great sound effects, obviously have a big effect on the guy in the movie or the woman, two women fighting, but it's essentially horse shit. And they're just way open, like they're sort of totally open to getting smashed, and for some reason the other guy doesn't think, I want to just smack him like that. Anyway, in Wing Chun, it's really up to you how you want to stand to fight, but the way I stand is like this, or slightly like that, and it's basically a, hey mate, I don't want to fight. Look, all witnesses, everybody watching this, the publican, the bouncers at the door, whoever, somebody that the court will believe, I'm going, I don't want to fight, mate. But you see, I'm ready to fight. There's my 2 palm strikes ready to go. And, you can set up like this, but as you know, in Wing Chun, you shouldn't tense. So you don't want to have clenched fists. And once again, that's what, in today's civilized world, okay, we don't live in some kind of Wild West, most of us. People don't fight. I mean, generally only ultra bogans fight, or criminals, So if you get in the world of fighting, the courts is where they decide your fate, whether you get to stay at home with your wife and kids or whether you go and spend 6 months with a whole lot of other people you don't really know and probably don't want to know. you basically, you have to think about that. Having said that, this is also, to me, the best way to start, because from here, it's just a strike like that. And I'm going to get in. And my strike, it might be just like that. But I want to strike hard and fast with no telegraphing from my centre. You know, I could bring my hand there and strike, or, you know, sort of on the way there. But the main thing in Wing Chun is we have this cone of protection, this sort of cone of silence, where that's what Chi Sao's teaching us and what the forms are teaching us, to keep this, it's a defense and an attack. So you're always on your center, you're always going straight down the guts, and we simultaneously defend and attack. So our defense is not, oh, he's throwing that, right. You know, boom, first I'll do the, you know, turkey's wing towards the eggs, and then I'll do the, you know, vicious dog throws its bone. That sort of stuff. You just bam. So from here, somebody might say, well, but you're so close to your body, how are you going to deal with something coming in? Well, honestly, it's instantaneous. When I launch an attack, it's going to meet him very, very fast. And even if he gets me here, which might happen because in real fights, not sort of set up in a ring fights, they generally, I don't know what your experience in life is, but as a kid, guys would come up and go, you look at me, mate, you want to go, mate? You think you're tough, mate? Right? And get ready to fight. That's how kids do it, sort of honourably, like a duel. But in the adult world, somebody who's going to attack you is what we Aussies call a dingo, usually. That's a coward. And they're not going to usually fight you face to face. Guys who come at you face to face, I find, don't really want to fight. They're sort of angry, they're pissed off about something. Either you've been chatting to their girlfriend without you knowing, or you've been chatting to the girl that they want to be the girlfriend and you didn't actually get the message that he wanted to be with her. But you want to realise that people don't play fair, and they'll usually try to king hit you. That's sort of, you know, hit you from behind. They call it a coward punch now, which it is, but in the old days we called it a king hit for whatever reason. So it tends to happen, boom, and you've got to have your spider senses out. Now, if you're just off your tits, you don't know what the hell's going on, well, you're basically a target and a victim. It's great to get off your head, but it's not a good idea to do it unless you've got a whole lot of tough mates with you, or you really know where you are and who's around. If you're out in some strange place, yeah, you're endangering yourself for getting too out of it. And things happen. So this is, from here, this is basically, you know, protection zone. And I feel quite comfortable rolling at this level. And it's really just getting in the way of whatever's coming. You haven't got time to think about it. You've just got to react. That's the reality of fighting, and that's the reality of Wing Chun. Wing Chun's an actual fighting art, not made for stylized fighting or dry land swimming, as Bruce used to call a lot of styles of martial art. It's a real fair dinkum, get it done, get it over with style. So from here, the palm strikes straight in. That's our major weapon, believe it or not. That's what we want to, obviously that, but you know, it hurts a bit hitting that wooden dummy, and it can if you hit somebody's skull, if you haven't got a good strong fist. And I was actually doing a bit of punching the other day, and I'm about to turn 64, and I guess I've got a bit of old bloke sort of arthritis or something, but bloody hands been hurting for heaps. But I keep my punches for the guts, hit him in the guts, you know, hit him in the arse, anything soft. Never hit them in the tits. That's bad to do that. If they're a bloke or a chick, if they got tits, don't hit their tits. It's not gentlemanly. But the palm strike, boom, straight to the chin. That's our first weapon. And the thing is, by having this cone of defense, you don't have to think about how to deal with whatever this theoretical attacker is doing. All we want to do is make sure our kung fu is just right. We're perfectly balanced. We're singing, we're on, spine's rising, got that floating thing going on, so as you're moving from your center. All the things you train in peacetime, when you go to war, it needs to just switch on. You don't have time to learn it whilst you're in the middle of a fight. So you want to be hitting them. And I mentioned in the last video about the dummy. The dummy is full of this, isn't it? It's full of multiple attacks. Boom, 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 boom. The dummy is full of fighting, how to fight. And if you think about it, you'll notice that the dummy is full of double-handed strikes, double arm strikes, not just the fists. Try not to think just fists. This whole thing is a weapon. Obviously there's the elbow, but don't think about the elbow as the weapon. It's this whole thing is the weapon. It's this thing over this side. People tend to think, oh, it's an elbow strike like that in Bill G, but this is all part of it. It's like a scythe, it's like a ball. That can clobber somebody as much as that can, as much as this can, as much as that can. Wow. Your whole mass is spinning. This is connected mentally. Physically, it's relaxed, but mentally you just feel like you're connected. Zzz, they're sort of connecting. So it makes you a fighting machine, which is the way I think of Wing Chun. It turns our bodies into a fighting machine. In Australia, we got a saying, fight like a thrashing machine. We want to fight like a thrashing machine, so it's all coming at you, it's spinning, and it's just mass and power crushing into you. And when, you've probably heard this saying, but in Wing Chun, we want to become the other person's shadow. We stick to them like their shadow. We move wherever they're moving. So once we go into the attack, you do not get away from that person until they're down. So what I'm talking about is a serious fight, right? So you want the hook kick, and I haven't really gone right into kicks yet. I've got lots of things to show you about kicking, but I always say kick like you're going for a walk, but oops, there goes my shoe. If you do a hook kick properly, you can break somebody's leg easy. You snap it like a twig, bam. It's a very dangerous kick. Same as straight up the centre. It's basically a hook is basically that kick, but on a bit of an angle. It doesn't have to come flying in like that, like some kind of thing like that. It can just be boom, but it does the job, and you're striking twice at the same time. And Bruce Lee he really thought a lot about real fighting. He used to always talk about high-low. Take their attention there, hit them low. We sort of basically do it all, like on 3 levels they're getting struck. I'll take the cover sheet off for a moment. So there's that. We go in all guns blazing. We don't muck around with 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like bam, bam, bam. Why would you give them a chance? You just slam into them with all of your weight, with your speed, your relaxed speed, with your mind focused on their spine, breaking their structure and hurting them a lot. And that's what you want to do. You want to knock them down. And just another thing about Wing Chun, I haven't got anybody here to practice with me, and I haven't had for a while because of all the corona stuff. But I'm going to do some things about wrestling and jiu-jitsu type things, because Wing Chun is really, really good for that sort of stuff. So if you're into that, look forward to it and remind me, because my idea is that Wing Chun is actually really good for grappling, like getting hold of people and flinging them around. When you feel the sort of force you can generate with our ideas, it becomes obvious that it's not just about striking, it's also about, you know, getting somebody out of the way, throwing them on the ground, and, you know, dealing with them from the ground. There's a lot in it. One last saying, punch a punch, kick a kick. That's just a real simple mnemonic, but rather than thinking, oh, he's doing that type of punch, what sort of punch will I use back? That doesn't happen in real life. I've been hit many times in fights, and I don't know if I should be proud of it, but I've never seen any of them coming. They're just like boom. I remember one guy bend like this. I saw it in the nightclub. I was breaking up a fight. I think I pushed the two guys apart. I was working as a bouncer, but I think I pushed the two guys apart, and the guy on the ground got up really fast. And I remember seeing his fist ready to hit me. Next thing, boom, he'd hit me. This is before I learnt Wing Chun, but you know, maybe I would have got my arms in the way of it or something, but he smacked me one. And it didn't really hurt much. It hurt the next day. But yeah, you don't really see him coming. So a good way to think of it is just to, when you see something coming, just punch it. Punch his arm, you know, like strike through his arm. You can be right on it if you want, but you know, we tend more to, you know, cut the soybean, cut the bean curd, just like chum, like that, and straight through. So you carve through whatever he's chucking at. You want to carve through it and strike him. And it's a mindset, just bang. All your weight's in it, right? Relaxed. Same as the kick. Oh, what do? He's kicking me. Like, okay, well, if he's a good kicker, like a Taekwondo guy or something like that, that kick's going to come very fast, and you haven't got time to really think, what will I do? So we just kick down the centre, but you can also kick his leg, you know, kick his thigh, kick his shin. It might hurt you a little bit, but it's better than copping it in the balls or copping in the solar plexus or the head or whatever. Last thing I want to talk about is the fighter's mind. Now, this is an interesting subject. I've often asked by people, yeah, but how do I use this in a fight? How do I use it in a fight? And I say, well, how will you go in a fight? You personally, have you been in a fight? Are you ready to fight? And it's easy to talk big and yeah, I'm a black belt and I'm, you know, call yourself a Sifu or whatever you want, but the real world of fighting is sort of scary, and it can be very alien to people who are not in that world, who are not out getting on the terps with their friends, getting into fights, you know, hanging with rough people where fights happen. If you're not that sort of person, it's very confronting to you to suddenly have to deal with that sort of stuff. If you've ever been near a vicious dog fight where dogs are really going off, big dogs, that scary animal ferocity, that's what you see in people, right? When people do their block, as we say in Australia, when they really go off, there's this ancient energy, like a sort of a gorilla energy comes out, this like an enraged chimpanzee sort of shit, and you just, it's ugly and scary, and if you're not ready for it, you're just going to go, help, help, you know, or just faint or run away. Run away is good if you can do it, but what I'm saying is that you've got to prepare yourself to deal with a situation. You can't just think your martial art will work if you haven't prepared yourself for the nasty ferocity of real life. Now, I haven't really admitted this, I don't think, before, but I was a policeman for a couple of years back in the 80s. I joined the police because my dad was a policeman, and he said, you know, the Queensland Police Pipe Band is looking for snare drummers. And I was a good snare drummer, Scottish pipe bands. And I thought, and he said, you know, you won't have to be a policeman. You just swan around the place wearing your kilt, playing your drums, drinking a few beers, having a good time. And then the rest of the time, you know, you'll work as a clerk, or they'll find you something non-police to do. And I thought, wow, that'd be great. And I went in there and they said, oh, yeah, we just stopped doing that. You got to actually become a policeman to join the band. And I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do that. But I had thought about it, and I thought, you know, was in my 20s. I thought, what the heck, you know, I often thought of joining the army or doing something hardcore, you know, like something really scary with weapons. And I thought, yeah, stuff it, I'll do that. I'll just do it, do their training, I'll get into the band, it'll all be sweet. But as things work out, I ended up being on the streets for 2 years, became a real policeman, got involved in a lot of stuff. And when I finally got in the band, I couldn't care less about it. It was just like, you know, I'm a copper. What do I want to do this? So I eventually left. I thought, no, that was a real mistake, but it taught me a lot and I made some really good mates. And, you know, the point of this is that when you're a cop, you carry a gun. I had this big cannon on my hip. I started off a little 38, which is still a very dangerous thing, Smith & Wesson, and then they gave me, I didn't ask for it, they just gave me this massive Sturm Ruger 357, which is a big pistol. It's a revolver, real old school, and it had these dum-dum bullets, which, like a hollow point, they're sort of lead, but I said to the sergeant, why are these bullets got this hollow in them? Because I'd only ever seen military stuff, because I'd been in the cadets, we used to fire 303 rifles, and we always had the military copper jacket round. And he said, oh, well, that's for killing people, mate. I said, killing them? Don't we just sort of shoot them and stop them? He goes, no. He says, if you pull that pistol and if you shoot somebody, you better be prepared to kill them, because that's why you've got it. It's only for killing people, not for wounding them. So all sorts of things can happen, and people have been known to get shot, you know, 5, 6 times and still go on and stab somebody to death. So it's serious business. And I talked to my dad about this, and he said, listen, you know, you're a good fella, you're a kind-hearted person, but you're now a copper and you're going to have to make a truce, or, you know, you're going to have to make a pact with yourself that you'll shoot to kill if you have to, because people's lives or your life might absolutely hang on it. And that scared me, but a lot of people, a lot of coppers actually didn't do that. And I've seen people freeze in dangerous situations with pistols especially, but in other situations, because they never really took it for real. They never really accepted the reality of it. And when the reality happens, I assure you, it seems weird. It's like a movie's happening. It's like you just stepped into some kind of, you know, cop movie, because you sort of are in a cop movie, but it's happening to you, and it's like, Jesus, this is real. That's not the time to work this shit out. You've got to have worked it out before. So when you point a pistol at somebody and they've got a gun and you have to stop them from hurting somebody else, you know, you have to be ready. And so why am I telling you this? Well, a real fight on the street can possibly turn into, you know, something to do with knives, or if you're really unlucky, there could be a gun involved. And, you know, you either sink or swim in these situations, and the person who's prepared their mind to deal with this is a reality, I might have to deal with this, same as a vicious fight. The person who's ready to fight is probably less likely to get into a fight, because humans have instincts, whatever they tell you, humans have really good instincts. And in my experience, baddies always picked up that I was sort of a bit of a baddie myself, like I'm a good baddie. You know what I mean? I'm prepared to go, and I'm prepared to go hard as you want. And people pick that up. But when they pick up that you're shitting yourself, I'm not saying you don't feel that sort of scared emotions, but when they pick up that you won't go, the baddie goes, an easy target, my victim. And that's just the truth of life. You know, you can't get around it. We'd all like to live in Disneyland. Everybody's, you know, sweet and all that. But you can avoid going outside of Disneyland. If you live in Disneyland, it's good to keep there. It's nice to have a safe life. Let all those other poor saps in blue uniforms or green uniforms protect you out there in the night. And you can write letters to the press and say what bastards they are. but they are protecting you whether you like them or don't like them. And yeah, just think about that for yourself. If you want to be a fighter, it's not the ring. There's not a bell that stops the fight. There's not somebody to run up and look after you. You might be completely on your own and surrounded by the assholes. And I've had situations a couple of times where I had to run for my life from a pack of bogans that were going to beat the crap out of me, and there was no one to help me. And it's just because I'm a bloody good runner. I couldn't fight them. It's because I'm a bloody good runner and I know a bit of the dark. I sort of know the dark. Came from being in police, but also when I was in the military, we used to muck around a lot in the dark, and even as a kid. Boys groups, we used to play in the dark a lot. So I was able to elude these mongrels, but if it was daylight, they might have got me. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent. I just want to leave you with one story, right? This is not a pleasant story, but if you remember a number of years ago, there was a terrorist attack in London where these maniacs attacked people with big knives. Now, there was a very senior policeman, I think he was an assistant commissioner or something like that. He had a couple of non-police types, I think, with him, but he was in a car and literally a young policeman was getting stabbed to death right there by this guy. Now that policeman basically, you know, locked the car and his people assisted that he drive off. Now he might have been saying, look, I really want to go out and help that guy, and the others might, no sir, no, we need you, some shit like that. But they say all sorts of bad things about him, but I sort of understand, like, if you are not ready for that sort of shit to come down, you're likely to be like that. People look after themselves first and come up with all sorts of excuses for yourself, but really, do you want to die for that dude that you probably don't know? Personally, I would have tried to run the bastard over with the car. I would have been straight around the back to the boot, find the jack or something like that, and started clouting this mongrel. But I'm pretty sure that I would have gone to that guy's aid, you know, as a policeman and just as a man. I couldn't stand to see that prick. I would have got angry and gone, no, fuck you. I would have been out there and tried my best. But there's a small chance I might have dingoed out too and just suddenly became a coward and, you know, feared for my life and stuff like that. To be a good fighter, you've got to be a little bit mad. You probably know that. But to actually jump into a fight, you have to be a little bit nuts. Anyway, at the same time that was happening, a couple of other young street police took on these knife-wielding maniacs and got really hurt, but got them. The difference is that senior policeman probably hadn't been a real copper for years. He'd been in his desk, air conditioning, everyone, sir, 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 cup of tea, sir, blah, blah, blah. Yes, sir. So he's become soft and he's not a hard copper anymore. He's lost that fighter's ability. He's lost that ability to be aggressive, which you need. Those street coppers, they know that, you know, what's likely to hit the fan at any time. So they're always on, they're always ready to go. And it takes a toll on you being like that, always ready to go. But that's the difference. So that's my advice for you. Very serious, I know, but if you think that you're going to be on the street having fights with people, you want to bloody well prepare yourself. You want to feel what it's like, you know. You don't want to think you're just rocking and, you know, use your Wing Chun. That's it's only half the story. Okay, that was a bit of a rave. Thanks for listening. Thanks so much for all the subscriptions. I'm almost at 1,000. If you're new, please subscribe, give me a like, make some comments, and I'll leave it at that. See you later.